I think we are ready to start. Yeah? Very good. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning and welcome to this AI Data and Robotics Forum. This is the first conference of Adra, the AI Data and Robotics Association. My name is Maryline Fiaschi. I am the CEO of a news company called Science Business. That's a news company operating from Brussels that specializes on research and innovation policies. And it would be my pleasure to guide you through the proceedings today. The topic of today, well, probably one of the most vibrant topics in the digital space these days, generative AI. Just for the sake of introduction, generative AI, a life changer for millions of people. Just to remind you that ChatGPT is the fastest growing app in the history with 100 million subscribers in the first 2 months after the launch back in November 2022. A life changer for some, a headache for others, policymakers, regulators. And also we'll find out that what's completely new for some people isn't entirely new for others, for researchers, for industry players as well, or not entirely new, but it's also very fast moving. So there are new components by the day. So what we will do today is, well, cross perspectives from researchers, from industry players, from innovators, from policymakers, and discuss what are the implications of generative AI for the European society and for the industry. So a fantastic menu in front of us. We're going to be in this room for the plenary. There will be breakout parallel at early afternoon. One thing for those standing, there is a broadcast in two other rooms, the Amphi Turing and Salmonet. So don't stand. If you don't find a seat, you can also be comfortably seated in the other rooms. There is also an online audience, which I welcome as well. Before I hand over to the hosts, just another couple of practical details. On your badges, there is a QR code. It's to download an app. With the app, you can chat with other participants. You can also comment on what you hear. You can direct questions to the panel. So those questions will be monitored and brought to me. We will take questions from the audience throughout the day. Okay, so the idea is to make this discussion as interactive as we can. The other thing is that there is live social media coverage. So if you feel like it, well, be active, engage on social media. There is a hashtag that is hashtag ADRF23. All right, so without further ado, it's my pleasure to give the floor to the two of the hosts of today's conference. So we'll start with Emanuela Girardi. She's the president of Adra. And right after her, we'll welcome Jean-Frédéric Gerbeau, the Inria deputy CEO for science. Please welcome Emanuela. And Emanuela, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Maryline, and good morning, everybody. And thank you for joining us here in present and also online. So before starting, I have to thank a few people, and I think I will need the support of the of the slides as well. So let me start. First of all, let's thank Inria for hosting us here. And of course, we will have just after me Jean-Frédéric Gerbeau. And I think they did a very big effort in hosting us here for our very first ADR forum. Then, of course, I would like to thank all the sponsors. So if I don't see them, I will try to remember them. Okay, that's perfect. Thank you. So our sponsor is AINED, Taylor, Idealist, Robotics for You, Inria, McFly, EIT Digital, Safe Explain, Glaciation, Emeralds, and Fair Work. So without all our sponsors, we couldn't be here today. So really, thank you very much for your support. And then, of course, I would like to thank the organization committee because at the ADR forum, our first ADR forum was organized quite quickly. So they did a very huge effort. So I really think that, I mean, considering also that it's sold out here, they did a great job. So thank you very much for your work. Thank you. So I'm really happy and I'm really honored also to be here as Adra's president at our first ADR forum. Adra was founded 2.5 years ago, and it's just coming out of the startup phase, and it was founded to become the private partner of the European Commission in the new PPP on AI, data, and robotics. And the way it was founded, I mean, it was given Adra and the partnership 3 very, very ambitious goals. So the first goal, which is probably the most difficult today and the most relevant also today, was to secure the European autonomy over AI, data, and robotics. Then the second goal was to sort of guarantee the European global competitiveness in AI, data, and robotics. And then, of course, there is the European vision. So we needed to execute this with the European vision. So developing technologies, AI, data, and robotics that had a very high socioeconomic and environmental impact. So, I mean, the point is that these are very, very ambitious goals. And the question that we have to answer today is, where are we today? So today we are in the middle of a tech revolution. There are lots of things happening. I mean, you've seen in the last weeks, there were lots of things happening in UK, in China, in US. And not only we are in the middle of tech revolution, but we are also in the middle of global crises like the climate crisis, the demographic crisis, and we are also experiencing 2 wars very near us. So I think that today, more than ever, it is essential and crucial for Europe to ensure strategic autonomy over the development, deployment, and use of AI, data, and robotics. And okay, given the current situation, I think that it is a very challenging task. I mean, we can all agree that it's a very challenging task, but we have a duty and a responsibility, and I do feel it, this responsibility, and I think that you all here should feel it as well, because the stake is very, very high. Because, I mean, we need to, to realize, to build and to strengthen not only the technological autonomy of Europe, but the strategic autonomy of Europe today here. And so the goal, I think it's very clear for everybody. How can we do it and what can we do here today in Versailles? So in Adra, we've been working very hard with our members and with the Commission in the past months, and we tried to identify some areas of improvements, I'd say, of the current European AI, data, and robotics strategy. And today and tomorrow, we will present some of our proposals. Some of the proposals are included in this RIDA. Some of other proposals on generative AI, for instance, will be discussed today. But I think that it's really, what we want to do, it's, to keep this work that we did together with our members and to do it today and tomorrow here with you, because it has really to be something that is coming from the community. And this is what we're building today. And what we did, I think, moreover, we started connecting the tech community, which at the moment, you all know that looks quite fragmented, because in Europe, we have excellent researchers, but then when it comes to bringing the outcome of the research to the industry and into the society, we are kind of lagging, and we're not very successful, I have to say. And I think that there are in Europe lots of successful local initiatives, also in industry, but they are missing the resources sometimes, above capital, talents, infrastructure. And I think that they are also missing the ambition to scale up and to become truly European tech champions. So we need the mind shift. I think that the Commission already, when they founded Adra, they asked us to, they founded the partnership and they asked us to found Adra. They did the first mind shift because they put together AI, data, robotics, which was quite challenging. Most of people criticized it as well. And I think that today we need the second mind shift. We need to be bold and courageous, and we need to start thinking as European. Not as Italian, German, and French, but or Spanish, but Dutch. We really need to start building big tech European projects, like Moonshot. And tomorrow we will present our ideas on this topic, and we really believe that we can and we must develop it together, further develop it together. And we can do it only through a strong, connected, dynamic European innovation ecosystem. Because I really think that, and here today, I mean, we have people from industry, big industries, SMEs, startup, European Commission, civil society, governments. I think that not only we need to bring Europe into this tech revolution, but what we need to do, and we can do it here today, we need to govern this revolution. And I think that doing this, we can do it only building a strong community. So this is our first meeting in person with our members. And I think that I hope that all of you, will feel this responsibility that we're here. And if you chose to be here, it's because you want to be here and you want to be part of this community. And you know that this is really what we have to do today. So I think that, first of all, I want to thank you again, because you really show that you want to be part of this community. And then I wish you all a very fruitful meeting, and I hope that we can really do something great in these 2 days together. Thank you. Please.
Good morning. I would like to welcome representatives of the DG Connect, representative of Bruno Bonnel, Catherine Simon, representative of French ministers, Adra President, dear Emanuela, and members of Adra. Bruno Sportis, the chairman and CEO of Inria, had to cancel his attendance today for family reasons. He sends his apologies. So I welcome you to Inria, the French Research Institute for Computer Science and Technology. You are here in the historical headquarters. Many of Inria's most famous scientists, Jacques Lyons, Gilles Kahn, Alain Bensoussan, spent a part of their careers here. So the place is not fancy, but it does have a rich history, and I hope you enjoy your stay here. Since 2018, Inria is in charge of the coordination of the research component of the French AI strategy, encompassing a large range of action, from supercomputing facility to strengthening of AI clusters for education, research, innovation in the top French universities. Inria is also in charge of the Paris Centers of Expertise of the General Partnership for AI, the GPI. For Inria, the European Research and Innovation area is the logical playground for AI. Through research alliances, like the one we did at Inria with the FKR, for example, innovation with the issue of the VC funds addressed by the European initiative like the EIC, with a clear focus on deep tech startup companies, and of course, regulation. That is why Inria is fully committed to the European game through its involvement in Adra via the CSA Adra-e. The vision of Inria: first, sovereignty; second, ecosystem; third, an appropriate framework for regulation. So first, digital sovereignty is a key issue. We believe that high-level research, investments in innovation may reopen the game. This requires to have a strategy, to think big with moonshot projects. This is what we call here at Inria Apollo projects, but that we should be extend to the European scale, of course. To think of software infrastructure, like, for example, scikit-learn in data science. This also requires an integrated strategy for digital technologies, without thinking in terms of technological silos. Adra is a good example: AI, robotic, data. Beyond Adra, we should not forget, of course, cloud computing, cybersecurity, or digital twins. Second, think in terms of ecosystems, universities, high-level research labs, VCs, innovating public procurement. Adra is a great opportunity for that. The audience today is a good illustration of what an innovating ecosystem in AI is. Third, build an appropriate regulation framework, which is innovation-friendly for the European companies, and which is aligned with the European values. The issue of bridging the gap between regulators and cutting-edge science and technology. Do not regulate yesterday's playground, but tomorrow's playground. We believe that, as such, the regulation requires high-level research and can generate innovation. That's why we have launched the project Regalia at Inria in support of the French Regulation Authority. But the topic has, of course, to be addressed at the European level. This two-day meeting is a good opportunity to discuss this issue with a focus on generative AI, keeping, of course, in mind that many other key AI-related issues, for example, the coupling between numerical simulations and AI in engineering applications that are at the core of the activity of some of the top research company or European company, and the topic of a very active field of research. How to build a technological roadmap within the framework of public-private alliances. How to reinforce the Adra ecosystem. How to attract talent and funding, both for academia and for companies. We have to play together. How to align the national and the European roadmaps. Inria is open to all partnerships and initiatives that are in line with this ambition. Thank you for your attention, and I wish you a very fruitful meeting.
So thank you to Emanuela and Jean-Frédéric for this very good scene setters. Hold on, Catherine, we have one more thing before you come up. This conference is also organized with the European Commission in collaboration with the European Commission under the premises of DG Connect. There are several representatives from DG Connect in the room, but before we kick off the debates, we will now hear a video message from Roberto Viola, who is the Director General from DG Connect. So if we can launch the video and then we'll deep dive into the topic.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm delighted to open this year AI, Data and Robotics Forum. I very much appreciate this opportunity to connect and discuss together Europe's future in AI. I welcome that this year we will focus on generative AI, a topic that is very much on top of the public discourse at the moment. The global rate of adoption of generative AI has been really fast. We have all experienced how it has significantly transformed the AI landscape. Generative AI has the potential to revolutionize a multitude of sectors and industries, from the creation of visual media content to the automation of various tasks. Multimodal generative AI models, which work with diverse inputs like text, visual media, and even robotics, show immense promise, leading to the application in the EU-relevant sectors, which will be, in a way, countless, like weather forecasting, manufacturing, healthcare. And as generative AI reshapes content, in a way reshapes our social discourse, we must also ensure that our European values and culture are reflected, which is why we must invest in development of foundation models also in Europe. I'm very much encouraged by the positive development in this area. I'm thinking about the investments that have already been announced, for example, by Iliad in September, or the recent announcement of funding for Aleph Alpha. It is, however, also clear that generative AI can amplify the risk of AI, in particular when it's used at scale. I'm thinking about bias, I'm thinking about data safety or hallucination or other forms of disinformation. The emergence of generative AI systems like ChatGPT and others has drawn public attention to the whole spectrum of risk of AI. last week in London, precisely at Blenheim Park, a summit has been called about the risks of AI, and everyone agreed that this is about setting the appropriate regulatory guardrails. And Europe, first in the world, to achieve this objective, we have proposed an AI Act. And in our intention, this is a future-proof regulatory framework which will protect fundamental rights, safety, innovation. That's also very important. This is why we are now, during the final stage of this adoption, this process, looking at the right balance between these three elements I mentioned before. And hopefully, the Council and the Parliament will agree on the text before the end of the year. Let me underline that Europe's innovation attractiveness will benefit from having a permanent, clear, and reliable legal framework. And once the AI Act is adopted, in any case, there will be a long transitional period before the regulation becomes applicable to operators. In the meantime, the Commission has called for an AI Pact, which will seek voluntary commitments of companies to anticipate certain provisions of the AI Act. And stay tuned, because of course, this pact will be officially launched soon, and I hope you can be part of it. As I said before, the emergence of generative AI has fundamentally transformed the political discourse around AI. And while we are now finalizing the AI Act, now other countries are looking at the AI regulation as well. Just last week, US President Biden issued an executive order which contains a comprehensive set of guidelines for responsible and trustworthy AI. And I think this is good news. There is a strong international eagerness to cooperate and address the governance of AI in a globally coordinated way. For example, the G7, the so-called Hiroshima AI process, has agreed on draft guiding principles on advanced artificial intelligence and a draft code of conduct for the development of generative AI. And finally, as I said before, the UK AI Safety Summit was another big milestone towards a convergence in regulatory and policies approaches between our international partner and Europe. What I think came out of the summit is that there's the need of a pool of scientific experts which can help in testing and advice on the necessary checks. We have a number of established structures in Europe. We can draw experts from those that are already working in our testing and experimentation facilities, networks of excellence, and the Adra public-private partnership. All these actors are incredibly relevant for the ecosystem we need to create in Europe. But of course, we need also to develop AI in Europe. This is why we are giving priority to concrete measures to foster investment and innovation. In September, the President of the European Commission has announced an AI startup initiative, which is building on one of Europe's biggest assets in this field, which is its public high-performance computing infrastructure, which happens to be the largest public computing infrastructure of the world. To develop AI, we need computing infrastructure. This is where, as I said, we have a crucial advantage. 2 out of 4 the most powerful supercomputers in the world are in Europe, and others are coming. European High-Performance Computing Joint Undertaking, which is the organization that groups this capacity and owns the machine, provides already an investment for more than 7 billion to deliver supercomputers and high-performance computing infrastructure that are necessary to run very large models. This critical computing infrastructure that is independent of big players is headquartered in Europe. And this is a big asset. With Leonardo and Lumi, already we have 2 world-class leading supercomputers, and we can actually start really doing serious work with our startups. We are now working to make sure that we have a structured way to facilitate the access to computing capacity in Europe. We also support Europe's strong AI research sector. For example, we support the European AI Network of Excellence. They are fostering, through this network of excellences, among the Europe world-class AI research team that are the best in joining, and we make sure that all these forces are together to tackle the challenges of AI development. And our upcoming calls include a focus on the next generation of foundation model. But for too long, Europe has been lacking world-class research with positive results. And only now we see that there's really an attention to see industrialization, good results coming from excellent academia. So we have been actively working to bridge the gap between AI research, outputs, and real-world deployment. To this end, we have committed funding for the development of an AI on-demand platform. The goal is to establish a fully operational and scalable platform. It is designed to offer trustworthy cutting-edge AI resources, which will include generative AI and foundation models. Significantly to this platform is that we intend to serve small and medium-sized enterprises, including startups. It will help them in fine-tuning generative AI. As you know, startups are important drivers for AI advancement in Europe. Companies like Silo AI, Aleph Alpha, Nionic, Mistral are the forefront of this evolving ecosystem. This is great, but clearly not enough. We need to develop an ecosystem. We need large companies to invest with the startups. And of course, another important building block of our ambition is to foster the development of AI based on the availability of data. We are putting in place all elements for a well-functioning and sustainable single market for data. We reached the political agreement of the Data Act in June. There's already the Data Act, let's say, in the making, providing a consistent framework, giving European companies and the public secure access to data. And I think this is crucial to help Europe to harness a growing amount of data, particularly industrial data. Already in place is the Data Governance Act that regulates voluntary data sharing structures like data intermediation and altruism. It empowers companies and individuals to control their data, fostering trust in sharing mechanisms and increasing data availability for the common good. In addition, we support the establishment of a common European data spaces, which they should be established in key economic sectors, including tourism, mobility, health, which we hope to make very concrete advancement and show this advancement already at this year's forum. Our goal is to maximize the value of data for the European economy and society. And just as an example, we aim to demonstrate the value of pooling health data for research and innovation to combat cancer. I'm confident that we are on the right track to be the center in Europe for innovative and trustworthy advanced generative AI. And I'm looking forward to the collaborative effort that will emerge in coming years. The initiatives we have put in place are more just than policy instruments. I hope they are catalysts for collective action. We look forward to work with you in this domain, and many thanks for your attention.
Very well. So immense opportunities, big challenges to solve, and plenty to discuss. So that's what we will be doing now. We're going to talk about the necessary conditions for Europe to thrive in the field of generative AI. And before I call the panel up, I will let Catherine Simon, who is advisor on digital matters at the French Secretariat for the Investment, that is leading the France 2030 strategy, right? I leave you the floor to open. Catherine, are we living in wonderful times?
Yes, we are. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm really honored to be representing the French government here at this Adra forum, and I'm thrilled that we're going to have a much more European contribution as France. We are living in troubled times: climate change, ecological disasters, wars on our borders, geopolitical tensions, and even technological acceleration are all challenges that confront us. Let's face it, humankind, that complex and fascinating being, has lost its rhythm. We are no longer in sync with technologies we create, nor with the long phases of the planet and the systemic equilibrium of living beings. We are like a musician who has lost his tempo, playing a discordant melody in a once harmonious orchestra. The systems we have created, far from being ecosystems, have led to imbalances. Their complexity, and that of the world of which we are an integral part, is beyond our comprehension. The consequences of what we once called progress call for a new definition of the word. And we must, first and foremost, acknowledge that we just don't know. For the next 2 days, in Adra's forum, we will be talking about technologies, both in terms of research and in terms of innovation, that is, its implementation in the real life and the real world. And these are incredible times. Indeed, every day, through research and innovation, technologies give us new capabilities, new abilities to perceive, new ways to analyze, and new tools to act. We gather masses of data from nanoscale to the exploration of the immensity of space. Artificial intelligence, and above all, the complex system models that underpin it, are powerful means to better understand our systems. And finally, robotics, which is more of my core expertise, is providing us with extraordinary tools for taking actions. Technologies open formidable opportunities, not to accelerate our existing systems, but to reinvent them. We do live both in challenging, though amazing times. We are the caterpillar, and it's terrible to be a caterpillar at the time of the metamorphosis. But isn't it the caterpillar destiny to become a butterfly, to transform itself, to metamorphose into a higher, more beautiful, freer form? We are at the dawn of the metamorphosis of our systems. Data, artificial intelligence, and its embodiment in machines are building blocks that can and must be thought through in the context of reinventing our systems towards a brighter future. They are building blocks enabling us to pave the alternative way towards a desirable future. And a future that doesn't simply reproduce, adapt, or even accelerate the mistakes of the past, but transform them into lessons and transcend them into a rebirth. To achieve this, we need to start at the base of the Maslow pyramid. Indeed, first and foremost, we need to satisfy vital human needs, the essentials for survival: breathing, drinking, eating, protection from cold and heat, safety, and sleep. So eco-anxiety is not good for sleep, right? Yes, I'm talking about the 4 basic elements: water, our vital resource, the quality of the air we breathe, the earth that we have to better take of, and soils we need to regenerate because they offer us the resource we now must use wisely. And the energy, okay, fire has been replaced by electricity, but it's energy that enables us to create, transform, and produce. And we have to start with healthy, sustainable food, resilient, protective infrastructures, and habitat. And this is where technology can play a crucial role. The Anthropocene era tells us we are solely responsible for ensuring that our vital needs are adequately met. This is the basis of the necessary solidarity between human beings. Technologies are tools. They are not ends in themselves. It's a means at the service of mankind. We must think, design, and use technology with this in mind. It's not a question of letting technology overwhelm us. It's of using it wisely, mastering it so that every technological advance is a step forwards, a fairer, more balanced world, more respectful of nature and mankind. Let knowledge, together with our entrepreneurial wit, be the fifth element to prepare a desirable future. Let's see the contemporary times as extraordinary times, times when technology are a chance to build the cocoon that will enable our children to turn into magnificent butterflies. For these 2 days, I invite you to reflect on these issues, on the urgency of the situation, and to act, each at your own level, for technologies to serve our goals, our ambitions, and our dreams. My neighbor, Ido Bante, right, told me another analogy. We have the choice. Are we facing a stumbling stone or a stepping stone? France 2030, France 2030. Ambition, it's a French program from the Prime Minister Service. The baseline is bringing our future closer. Europe can and must lead the way in this alternative narrative. Europe can be the leading power of a new story for humanity. We are fortunate to live in an age of enhanced capabilities and wide open possibilities. We have the chance to act, to change things. So let's seize it, for we are living in wonderful times. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. So yeah, please stay here. And now I will call Lucilla and Michael to come on stage. And while you come, I'll introduce you. So DigiConnect is represented in this opening roundtable panel by Lucilla Sioli. She's Director for AI and Digital Industry, wherever, here, yeah, good, at DigiConnect, European Commission. And we'll be joined by Michael Fausten. Here he is. Senior Vice President for AI and Systems at Robert Bosch. Michael, please come in, sit, yeah, here, good, very good, I'll go there. Excellent. Lucia, you're far away, but I'll still start with you because we've heard from Roberto, who indeed gave a very good scene setter. Yeah, please all take a mic. But I do have more questions for you on the AI Act. So are we on track to set up this global framework?
Thank you very much for the question and good morning, everyone. I'm not sure what we mean with are we on track, because there is no specific timeline at the moment. As Roberto said, the AI Act is the first comprehensive artificial intelligence act in the world. So we are preparing to conclude the discussions with the Spanish presidency and the parliament before the end of the year. We're working very hard to do that. It's very complicated because, of course, as we were preparing the act, the technological shift of generative AI came about. So this has brought further discussions. We say we are going to be the first in the world with a comprehensive act, and that's absolutely true. But we also have to remember that the United States came forward with the executive order of the president last week. This is very much focused on generative AI only. while the AI Act is more general. It addresses, in particular, artificial intelligence systems that are considered to be high risk. So it's very much risk-based. But the executive order of the United States is also looking at the part regarding foundation models and general purpose systems. So I think we can have a conversation on that as well with the United States, knowing, however, that in the United States, they cannot really regulate companies. They can only address the regulation to the public sector, to the federal agencies. So that is a bit of the difference with the Artificial Intelligence Act. So, but certainly when it comes to foundation models and generative AI, we can also look at, for example, what the United States have proposed.
Very good. And yeah, it's a very fast moving area, as we said, from a technological point of view. But just last week, there were like, I don't know how many initiatives between the UK Safety Summit or the Hiroshima process or other things. So, and indeed the executive order from President Biden. But what are the odds that Europe can move fast enough? The trilogue hasn't yet concluded. So
No.
what's is the Spanish presidency going to push the AI Act to the finish line?
Well, we all hope so, because you know, next year we have elections for the European Parliament in the European Union, and we think it's important we have the Artificial Intelligence Act in place before the elections takes place as well. So the Spanish presidency is doing its best. We all count on the Spanish presidency to conclude by the end of the year, but of course the ball is also in the camp of the European Parliament, and sometimes the positions are still quite different on certain topics. I am optimistic, and I want to hope that we finish before the end of the year.
So in practice, what should we watch for? What are the next milestones?
The next milestone is effectively a last trilogue foreseen for the beginning of December. If we conclude then later, a few months later, there will be a vote in the Parliament, another vote in the Council, and then the Act will enter in force. The Act doesn't become applicable from the very beginning. It foresees 2 years of transition, during which all the authorities and the companies can adapt and to the existence of the Act and prepare for it. Very soon, I think it's going to be probably next week, that we will publish first, documents relating to what is called the AI Pact, meaning the possibility for companies and developers to commit to implement the Artificial Intelligence Act before it becomes applicable in 2 years' time. So that will give time to companies to adapt, understand better what they have to do. And we in the European Commission, we really commit to invest resources in supporting startups and small, medium enterprises to then navigate this world of rules for the use of artificial intelligence before the Act becomes applicable. I think that will be very important because it is sometimes perceived as being complicated.
But now the question, generative AI, is the AI Act suitable for generative AI? How does it fit?
Well, you can think that the AI Act is risk-based, and you can think that what generative AI can bring, if you only think of, I don't know, ChatGPT nowadays is used by 100 million people, it can really bring about systemic risk. So it can really, these systems can really affect a lot of people, and depending on only one big foundation model, which then powers, in this case, ChatGPT. So I think that we're still talking about risk. Now, what kind of risk? I know that in London, in Bletchley Park, all the attention was on catastrophic risk, and everybody was talking biological weapons and malicious uses and AI getting out of control. But I think there are still risks like bias, like disinformation, and cybersecurity that maybe are not perceived as catastrophic as what the leaders were talking about, but that are still very relevant. And I think that the AI Act can address them.
Michael and Catherine, do you want to come in on this question of whether the AI Act is fit for purpose for generative AI? What is your take on it?
Well, I think it's already a very good initiative to have some framework for Europe and a common framework for Europe on AI. I want to comment on the risk and the kind of hype cycle, maybe hype curve that we are living through. Like, we are at the top of the hype curve for generative AI, which is one AI among several AIs. So thanks for reminding us of that. And some of the risks that people are talking about are also, let's not be naive, some economic interests, defense, right? Say it's potentially because the US are in advance. We can agree on that. It's also for them to potentially prevent or impede the development of new models, of alternative ways. And this, we must be very careful not to enter into these catastrophic predictions. I remember from the robotics in 2000, let's say 14, or almost 10 years ago, we were robotics at the top of the hype curve, and like 50% of the jobs will be destroyed and robots will kill the humanity. And we've got all of that. Well, 10 years later, we're still there. Robotics has not that developed and I hope AI generative will help robotics in other areas, and especially social robotics. But let's face it, like, the doom things, they're good preventing us, warning us, like we should be really careful about the risks, but not overwhelmed by predictions of dooms, which are sometimes economic interest behind them, and most of it completely ignoring the appropriation process, the social appropriation process. We're in the hype. Yes, it's accelerated, but then it will go down again. And then we will make good use of it, bad use of it, and bad use of it will be regulated. Good use of it will be, more in the midterm, long term. The race is not over. The positions are not entrenched.
Michael, do you agree? Coming back to the necessary conditions, do you think that the AI Act provides the right level of de-risking for the business and innovation in Europe? You're the industry voice on this panel.
So I'm the industry voice. I know this. And it's, first of all, I would like to say we really welcome the AI, because artificial intelligence is a very powerful technology, whether it's generative or any other type of technology you have. And it always makes sense to think in advance, what can you do with technology? How should you handle it properly? And how can you apply it to the benefit of the society at the end of the day? And how would you limit risks? So from that perspective, we absolutely welcome the AI Act. But we had heard in the keynote speeches, there's as well another perspective on generative AI, on AI in general, which is a potential. AI is not only a risk which we need to contain. AI is as well a huge, huge potential, and even more, I think the hype is speaking for itself, this question of generative AI. So if we do a good regulation, we have to my understanding, do both. On the one hand side, make sure that we can handle the risks which is attached to the technology, but on the other hand side as well, leverage the potentials out of the technology. And that means that we need to be careful. What do we really consider high risk? Not overdo it, but leave space as well to innovate, leave space to research, leave space to try out certain things. Sometimes we learn as we go. Artificial intelligence is one of those technologies which moves incredibly fast. and is prone to do quite a bit of trial and error. So you don't know always in advance what will come out of it. Startups pop up and die again. Products pop up and die again. So in order to leverage the potentials, we have to be agile. We have to give space and room to be creative, try out, and at the same time, and I can reiterate that just again, make sure that we contain the risks on a level that is good for the society. From that perspective, so it's a good thing to have the AI Act, but balance between risks and benefits. By the way, as well in the communication, we need as well a society which is open and positive against these technologies and does not think only in risks.
You're raising the next question, actually. Well, indeed, it looks like with the latest policy development, policymakers are mainly looking at what could go wrong, right? But when we talk about innovation and the necessary condition for Europe to thrive in the AI or generative AI environment, shouldn't we spin a more positive narrative? Is the Commission doing that, working on that?
Well, we do, and we have a number of programs, and I think that the public-private partnership ADRA that is organizing this event today is based on European policies and European funding programs. So we do have funding programs, and I can go in more detail about what we are supporting. But I think that the media, unfortunately, pays too much attention to the regulatory side. And I have to say, I had a discussion also with my London counterparts because of this catastrophic image of artificial intelligence they were giving. And we too often forget that artificial intelligence is instead very useful for our economies and our societies, and that we need to support the development of it. And as it was said earlier, we are probably behind the United States and in many developments simply because our ecosystem is different, but we can take, and we are taking very serious steps to improve the situation and the development in the European Union. So we have a research program, which is supporting the research activities. The strategic research agenda of ADRA will be very important also to inspire our calls. And as the Director General said earlier, there will be a call coming on next generation of foundation models, and that's going to be very important. We are also having a Digital Europe program. This is a different program of the European Commission, which supports strengthening capacities in technology in the European Union. And there we have set up testing and experimentation facilities that help innovators to test and experiment before they put their innovation in the market. And we would like to extend these testing and experimentation facilities also to testing and experiment with generative AI, for example. We have an AI on-demand platform that was also mentioned earlier. And this platform will also help SMEs in particular to fine-tune generative AI for specific applications and purposes and sectors. And all this is going to be basically for free for the use of small, medium enterprises and startups. And another element that was mentioned earlier this morning, I find very important for all those startups developing foundation models in the European Union, we are making available capacity of our supercomputers. I think these are very recent announcements and decisions that have been taken in the context of the joint undertaking EuroHPC, which is a European joint undertaking supporting research and development and acquiring also the supercomputers in the European Union. We are the only continent that has a public network of supercomputers. And training a foundation model is one of the most expensive activities for the development of the foundation model. So having access to the supercomputers for free, I think it's a very important help that we are giving to the startups, and we will continue to do so also with the European Innovation Council, making financing more available also to our startups. So there is a whole set of activities in this area from the side of the European Commission, it's in a way almost a pity that we always talk about the rules and Europe as a super regulator. I think we really work very much to find the balance in this area. We need to support AI, but we also need the guardrails, because if people don't trust AI, they will not use it. So this is how the AI Act should be seen in the general context of our policies in artificial intelligence.
Very good, Catherine, you want to come in?
Yeah, I wanted to say, yes, we do need the positive narrative, and I think Europe can lead the way. The US insists on the risks now, and it's a race for domination between, you know, West and East, and we're in the middle, so we can find our own path. And I really think we should definitely both, you know, of course, implement this legislation that is the AI Act that is welcome, even by industries, but also insist on what we're building in Europe. Like we did increase chip production capacities in Europe with very large European programs, which I know we were part of. We do build supercalculator capacities, and they are open to SMEs, and that's a very rare quality that we should emphasize. And there are more things that we can do to be part of the race, right? My next
like what?
Right, exactly. I think we need to change the race. Actually, we need to be part of it, because we cannot just ignore what's happening in the rest of the world, and we're part of the world. But we need to change the race. I want to take the analogy of I once worked in the video game industry, and then Microsoft and Sony were fighting for the domination in terms of calculation, you know, very speed of calculation for the display and the quality of the images. And then Nintendo is an historical player, very specialized in video games and arcade games. So he started with arcade games. And then he thought about it, and he was making a projection saying, okay, if I'm entering that race, in terms of speed of display and calculation of the console and the quality of images, I'm going to lose it. I'm going to lose it because I don't have the same means. I'm a very specialist of video games. I'm not a, you know, a computing power. I'm not a generalist in electronics. And then he released the Wii. And the Wii was like the blue ocean strategy. It's one of the examples of the blue ocean strategy. And we completely redefined who is playing video games. It was transgenerational, redefined its own criteria of what a good video game is. And it was entertaining, interactive, transgenerational. It attracted people that didn't play. You know, I played with my mom. And well, she was a bit less older. The tennis, I played tennis with my mom on the Wii, and with my 3 generations in a row, we played together. So I think we need to reinvent our own criteria, adopt also, take part of the race, the domination race. We have to take part of it, but also create our own race and win this one.
Very good. We'll come back to the race, and because that also ties up with the technology sovereignty issue. Should we talk about money for a while, and then I'll take questions from the audience. So start preparing your questions. Public money for generative AI. Is there a line?
Well, public money is always useful, and I'm also responsible for semiconductors, and so I often get the question, why did you put billions on chips and you didn't put it in AI? So we're in chips, of course, we're building factories and hardware, and that always tends to be a lot more expensive. But I think public money is certainly an important item. We do spend a significant amount of money in our research program in support of AI, because we have checked across all the different pillars of Horizon Europe so including healthcare, including the green pillar and so on. We are spending about, we have spent already about 3 billion euros in the period 21-22. Which is a big budget, because AI is not only developed through the cluster on the digital technologies, but it's really developed also in other clusters. And I can tell you in semiconductors, when I see the calls that we support in semiconductors, many of them are about artificial intelligence. But what we are missing, and the question that we should ask ourselves, is not only about the public money, because one big difference we have with the United States is the ecosystem. So in the United States, you take a company like OpenAI, it was able to develop an amazing innovation. They were strongly supported by Microsoft. So certainly we do not have these big platforms in the European Union that are driving these developments in artificial intelligence, but we do have big companies. We have Bosch, we have SAP, we have heard announcements by Iliad recently making investments in these new generative AI models. And I would like to see maybe it would be interesting also to hear from the actors about their plans and the need that we have, that our startups in Europe that are coming so much to the forefront in these developments are also supported by the large European companies. So public support is important, but I also think that support by large companies is going to be important if we want to create a real ecosystem in the European Union.
Well, in fact, Michael, am I right in saying that Bosch didn't wait for public money to be available to start investing in generative AI?
I'm really happy that we're having this talk now, just this week, because you all have probably seen in the news that we did invest into Aleph Alpha, teaming up with SAP in the Schwarz Group. So that there is surely as well investment from the big players. And we don't wait for public money. That is true. We consider artificial intelligence, generative AI, as one of the key technologies for our success in the future. And we do consider as well as strategic independence as a key success factor for the future. So that is the reason why we say we do invest, and we do invest in Europe. And it is a game where we want to be part of and we want to invest into. Nevertheless, I would still wish to come back to this funding topic again. You mentioned Microsoft. Microsoft is a big player, and now compare the money that Microsoft was able to put into OpenAI. I wish we would be able to do that. That is a little bit beyond our capabilities. And if we want to think about Europe becoming a big player in those kind of things, then we may wish as well to think about how do we foster those global champions. I can probably say that comfortably out of the role of Bosch, because we do not want to become a hyperscaler. That's not us. But if we wished to have something like a Microsoft of Europe being able to invest that large money, then we may probably think about how can we foster that more effectively as well in larger programs. It's absolutely important to have programs to foster the small and medium enterprises, because they are at the verge of pushing the new technologies. Yet on the other hand side, the question is, where's the European hyperscaler, the big player that can provide the platform, that can provide technologies for as well those SMEs? Then at the end of the day, what is the idea to bring that ahead? That would be an interesting question still.
Can I ask what Bosch is investing into?
So we are investing obviously in our technologies, which is you can say invented for life. That's the purpose that we go. It's usually about physical systems, products that make life to the one or the other end more comfortable, safer, cleaner, ecologically friendly. That's in the field of building technologies, like how to automate and optimize water energy consumption in buildings. That's one of the larger fields. We're industrial automation, so using robotics and AI in industrialization, in production, and so on. We are having the whole field of consumer goods, where we are working in smart kitchen areas, smart whitewares, home gardening tools, and so on. Everything this is going to be powered by AI more and more and more. And the largest area you all know as well is automotive. So we are providing technologies for automotive. Cars are getting smarter. Cars are being driven electrically. Actually, you can't manage those cars anymore without artificial intelligence. That is the fields that we invest into. And that is as well where we invest into with research and R&D to foster our products in a broader field. So
right.
at the whole, we have an R&D share around 8% of our 88 billion turnover. So I think that's a fair share that we do invest as well in startups and in cooperation with startups, universities, and so on.
And what's the forecast? What do you think will be the return on investment from your investment in generative AI?
We have a very, very broad span. Some things we expect to return quite fast. If we take generative AI to improve our business processes, like making use of large language model to process data information in the company, evaluate information in the company, that is something that we respect as a return within few years. If you do larger investments like full automation of manufacturing, for example, or helping to more automate manufacturing, and by the way, as well, bringing by that way probably production back into Europe, that takes longer.
Do you think Bosch will ever compete with Elon Musk on autonomous driving?
We tend to not comment on neither competitors nor our customers. But I think there are several companies who are doing a fairly good job on automated driving. If you watch carefully the news, you see as well that there are some things which do not turn out as we expected them to turn out. We continue to invest in automated driving, and that means in all the, let's say, established levels, level 2 for still being driver supervised, level 3, cars in a limited way to drive on their own, up to level 4, fully autonomous. So we are all 4 fields, we are still active, trying to provide technologies to OEMs and whoever is interested in that, in sensors and intelligence, to enable that technology. So we still do believe in that.
If you don't mind, I would like to comment on this, investment and extra. Yesterday, I met a corporate fund, and it's one of the rare in France that directly invest into companies, because most of the corporate funds are acting as investment firms. So they do funds of funds, right? Or they participate into other funds that do the direct investment. And I think that's one of the things that we need to correct, is really to call for industrial companies in Europe, the big champions, our big companies, large companies, to directly invest into the startups and the SMEs. So the way they invest in corporate investment, first they mixed open innovation division with the investment fund of the corporate venture. And then they have to have an operational godfather, if I can say so, that says, yes, a head of business unit that says, yes, I'm okay for you to invest in that company. It's the death of proof of concept. It has to be the death of proof of concept. Proof of concept, we make numerous proof of concept, and then it never deploys. It almost never deploys. So most of our startups, they have all those logos of very large European companies, and the French ones are not, we do lots of proof of concept. And most of the time, they all have the same logos of our top 40, all our top 40. And when I say, what did you deploy? It's kind of almost nothing. So I think we need to, revise that as well. There's a proof of concept, There's an investment of the company into an experimentation. The experimentation is successful. Let's deploy it. Let's make a pilot line. Let's fund the pilot line, and then let's deploy it again. And I think that's a way to create new champions. So that's my first thing on the fund. And on the way again, let's think about alternative roads. Let's think about first, nothing is entrenched. Nothing is entrenched. And I'm dying to see AI and robotics, generative AI and robotics crossroads. I'm dying to see the convergence of technologies, the wonders that they can produce. But I'm also willing that we set our own criteria. So in France, we have an exploratory research program. It's called the PEPR in French. I don't know exactly what it means. So it's upfront, like, TRL 1, 2, 3. And it goes about frugality. We should talk about frugality. Embedded AI, distributed models, and decentralized machine learning. So these are the alternative paths, the alternative roads that we are trying to, see the future of. So I really want to see that Europe is looking into their own criteria. We have a cultural and values to defend and to protect and to spread eventually.
All right, Michael.
I like very much what you just said. And there's one thing we're talking about, hey, where's Europe? How can we get better? There's one so valuable thing that we have in Europe. We're a continent which has provided technologies, physical systems, physical technologies, machineries, products that people can take home. We're not based on products that you find in the internet and operate in the web. Europe has many things you can touch. And the application of AI in that field is that what we call at Bosch industrial AI. And we feel like this is a stronghold of Europe. And to steal your words, I would die to see Europe leveraging this potential and bringing up then the champions in that field, because that is a field where the world is not yet as big and Europe can have a crucial stake there.
Yes, I just want to agree what was just said, because often I get the question, oh, Europe is too much lagging behind in artificial intelligence because it doesn't have the platforms. But I really think that our comparative advantage is in our industrial applications. And that's why this public-private partnership, ADRA, actually exists, because it's about bringing research to the industrial level and making research have industrial objectives. And I would like to see more and more companies joining this public-private partnership, also large companies, because it's absolutely necessary exactly to be able to achieve the fact that our research approaches reach the industrial level. And we are strong in Europe because now we talk all about generative AI and foundation models, which bring back to machine learning only, but in Europe, we are very strong also in expert systems. So anything that can bring machine learning and expert systems in the future together will make these artificial intelligence systems even more intelligent than they are now. Now they're just based on the probabilistic effect that a word comes after another word, but in the future, if you can bring, more reasoning with it, they have a chance to become even more intelligent, and we Europeans are strong in that. So I really hope that our research in the future will put Europe increasingly more on the map of artificial intelligence. But yes, let's not forget our strong industrial background, and that's where we should be very much integrating these communities of AI, robotics, and data exactly in that perspective.
Very good. Should we take some questions? Do we have any questions? And I remind you that you have an app, so you can also put questions through the app if you wish. We take one question here. Hold on, you need the mic.
I have a question about UK. We talk about it all the time about Europe. Where do we have UK?
But the UK the UK has now become associated to our Horizon Europe program, the research program. So starting in 2024, they can actually participate to the research program. So you will be able to have a consortium with a UK partner, if you wish, which was not possible in these latest years. Now, where is the UK on the map of AI? I'm not an expert here. Of course, the mind goes to DeepMind, which is then owned by an American company. I'm sure they're very, their universities have always been very good, so I'm sure they're very capable also in this field. And their policy recently has been to put attention to this very catastrophic existentialist risk that, as I said earlier, in my opinion, we should, first of all, pay attention to risk that artificial intelligence has now, and I'm thinking more of bias, discrimination, disinformation. I think we cannot forget these dimensions that are equally important. So I hope that also the players and the actors in the UK will also pay attention to this kind of risk in the developments that they make when they talk about responsible artificial intelligence.
More questions? Yes.
Thank you. So I'm Girardi from Finland, and have been part of this Adra action. And we have had this dilemma how to get the companies involved this. And one idea which I got is that there has to be this kind of a European spirit now. The world is living in very dangerous times, and we have to have this spirit to make something together. And there I initiate that also the companies, big companies, should pay more attention what is happening in Europe, and otherwise we will not have this possibility. And just as an example, what is happening in Finland on the critical infra side, we are few people, so we can't afford that the government will make all this critical infra for us. And there is a voluntary-based companies providing and being part of this chain, so that they will provide also the goods when the timing is tough. So I am proposing and hope some comments that could we get this European spirit in a strong way on AI?
Can we?
Maybe with a positive narrative? I don't know. Yeah, well, I will do my best. I promise. I said it to Emanuela that the French industrial community will participate together with our excellence of research to Adra much more. And I'm going to fight for this. I'm going to engage people for this, engage the community to come and be present, more present at Adra. Yes.
Lucia, Michael, is the European spirit for generative AI?
I think there's a chance towards that, at least from the perspective talking to other stakeholders, people out of industry, at least from Europe. I think there is a consciousness about we are kind of depending on what happens elsewhere in the world. And I think nobody is very comfortable with that. So that this as well triggers things that we did just last week to say, okay, we go into investments here in Europe. So yes, I think this can be done. I think it comes along with something which I would like to reiterate, a positive attitude in the whole society towards this topic, because let's be honest, at the end of the day, companies are up to making business, and they are obliged to their stakeholders to do things which make positive business impact. And if we now see a society which is extremely positive on those kind of technologies in China and extremely positive on those kind of technologies in the US, then you have a let's say, a business-driven move towards those areas. So what I do think we need two things: a positive spirit, a Gen AI spirit among the companies. I'm fully with you, but as well among society. And I would really see a huge potential in ADRA, in European Commission, in many associations which have a say and a voice to raise this spirit, this positiveness against new technologies. By the way, does not hold only for AI. There's many things where I feel other societies are more open to new trends.
I link that to the final question, because coffee is ready. But there's the question of technology sovereignty. There is a very trendy world in Brussels and elsewhere across Europe. Is this question of European spirit, can it feed into the technology strategy debate? Or how should we address this question of technology strategy when talking about generative AI, when we know that other parts of the world are already so much advanced? And so what should be our sovereignty? Is it regulating, as we've done in other parts, and that's the European label on it? Or should we invest in other things? Catherine, you already suggested some areas, but I'll let Lucilla respond first.
Well, I think I tried earlier to explain that we invest quite a lot of our European public resources in the development of artificial intelligence, and we're not only regulating. And I insist on that because exactly, we think that technological sovereignty is an issue which characterizes this European Commission, and it will continue to do so in the future. And it's not just a fancy word, it's just the fact that the word has changed. You reminded the wars that are ongoing, and technology has also often become an instrument of geopolitics. I think of Taiwan or discussions of between the United States and China. All the export controls of the United States on the semiconductors is to prevent China from developing large artificial intelligence systems. So technology is very much at the center of geopolitics. And when we talk about technological sovereignty, it's all about making sure that Europe has the capabilities of developing the most advanced technologies. It's not about being autarkic or not importing anymore. Most of these technological value chains are global and rightly so. But we have to be also capable of not only using technology, but also being able to develop it, and possibly develop it on the basis of our own values, our European values, which also include data protection and so on. So this is the sense in which technological sovereignty takes place. It's probably something we would not have needed a few years ago when the world was more peaceful and we were, living with free trade in all the possible areas. Now it's not the case. So it's very important that we keep this the geopolitical context in our mind, and that's why sovereignty is important. So I think we need to strengthen our capabilities. We are investing a lot of money to do that, but this has to come with guardrails. Let's not forget it. Otherwise, people will not use artificial intelligence. And if we can create clear rules, legal certainty, companies will not have too many difficulties in respecting them. And it's not only European companies. These rules are for everyone that wants to put AI on the European market. So there is a level playing field. And I think we are very well set for a sound and robust and trustworthy artificial intelligence future.
Very good. We'll talk about trustworthy AI in the final panel today. Michael, Catherine, do you have anything to add? Michael, do you think, just one final question, do you think that Europe should focus more efforts, or maybe at the level of the company, between generative AI and other emerging technologies, or not emerging like robotics, but like supercomputing or quantum?
First of all, I would like to make a statement on what you said. I would fully reiterate on it's valuable and it's highly appreciated that we're doing regulations to use technologies in a responsible way. That makes a difference in Europe, and we highly welcome that. And now, personal point, I'm proud to be European in that sense, and I don't want to be elsewhere. So the question obviously is in this race and all around us, there is a race ongoing. Do we have all the mechanisms on hand to play a part in that race? And regulation is one of those, to make sure it's for the good of the people. But we need to as well, and probably the discussion that we're having here, we need to have as well the means to, let's say, dope or athletes, right? Because that's what our international players are doing currently. So is there anything else we should focus on? Surely there is some quite a bit of future technologies. We're talking about change of complete energy ecosystem in hydrogen. That is a big field where you can go to semiconductors, but we are active in semiconductors already on that. Artificial intelligence is surely one of the major topics. I would say, if you ask me that, we can go for hours on.
Between generative AI and other sectors, not all sectors.
Pardon me?
I meant the interface between generative AI and other technologies.
Yes, that ties to what I just said quite some minutes ago. Industrial AI for me is the big thing to do, and that ties to robotics, that ties to machineries, that ties to physical sensors, and tying this technology with generative AI. By the way, one of the research areas in our company is to do this technology for non-language topics, but rather to how do you apply that to machineries? How do you apply that to production? Whereas as well as certain semantics that you could probably predict. That is a field there where we see potential.
Very good. I think we needed a final note on the potential. So thank you for bringing again the industry on views. Please join me in thanking the panelists. We will now break for coffee. Coffee is served outside. There is a little exhibition as well. And please come back here at 11:50. Je peux faire une annonce, mais s'ils sont dehors, ça va pas faire. So for those still standing, if you can take a seat, we are going to start again. We are going to start. So if you can take a seat. Networking is important, we know. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we have one more session between now and the lunch. And the topic for discussion for the next session, yeah, it's okay. Very good. Come on in. Please enter the room, take a seat. And don't forget that there is an online audience. So we're supposed to try to stick to the schedule as much as we can. Okay. Very good. So let's go. The next session is actually we're going to speak about the European startup ecosystem and investment. Okay, we've heard a little bit about that. Please come in, take a seat quickly so that we can start. I'll call, as I did before, I will call the panel in a little while, but we asked Jussi Karlgren to introduce the topic. Jussi, you're a principal AI scientist at Silo AI. Silo AI has been a popular company so far. We heard it earlier in one of the introductory speeches. It came up already, so tell us on you're going to talk about turning AI into applications. So please go ahead, and then we'll go into the debate.
Thank you. Indeed, I will be talking about some of the ways in which we turn groundbreaking AI into practical applications, and some of the, let's say, strategic hypotheses we base our activities on. And I think those are quite relevant to the conversation we will be having today. So right, so I'm here speaking for Silo AI and its SiloGen subsidiary. We actually build AI, and we build AI for production use in governmental organizations and the business organizations all over Europe. Mostly European companies, but not exclusively European companies are our customers. And we have offices in several places. We're based in Helsinki, in Finland. So LLMs will be an integral component in software products. We know this. This is not news. This predates generative AI. This predates the current crop of AI. We know this, and this has already happened in several cycles. It fades into the background and becomes just another tool. And the current wonderful times we're living in will also, in retrospect, will merge into the general production. And we have wonderful things and wonderful use cases. And while we believe that today's LLMs are pretty damn good, and it's exhilarating being at this stage, seeing in some sense the successes astound the world, we do know that there's a bunch of stuff that has not been attended to yet. So we do know we need to do things with the current generation of models, and we expect to be needing to do similar things with the next generation of models. So value creation in general comes from application to task and integration with existing pipelines and things. And what I mean by the splash here, even this huge splash of generative AI is a momentary occurrence, and a happy such occurrence for those of us who like AI, and most of us do in this room. But when the splash recedes and waters are calm again, we need to be able to do things with what we learned and wait for the next splash, wherever that comes from. So one of our base hypotheses, one of our base strategies is that specialization is the path to relevance. We have base models, useful base models that do wonderful things. We specialize them into vertical use case based models that do certain types of things quite well and better than the base models. And then we tailor those models into tools that are integrated in our customers' production pipelines. And by then, AI is but a component together with a bunch of other components that produce the value that the customer lives off. So we have a fairly convoluted process, which I will not get into here, but which we found serves our needs quite well. We start with base models, and some of them are built by people represented in this room, together with academic partners and practical partners like Turku University in Finland. AI Sweden is building the GPT-3 model. Lighton builds a French model, which we probably will be talking to soon, and so forth. There are many base models out there. To do something with them, we need to build both the scaffolding around them to build a product, but also to specialize them into the tasks we want them to specialize in. This is essentially what I just said, so I'll just skip that in the interest of getting us to the panel. So what we do is we provide our customers with a family of base LLMs, a catalog of specialized LLMs that we can work with and practice for certain types of use cases. And then we have a large assortment of tools that we can use together with the customer to build what they need. The slides will be available then if all those words left you dizzy. So we have example use cases are things such as building technical customer support, to build tooling for customer service or salespeople to access the practical things that their predecessors in the same chair already have done, to go through corporate archives and to help provide the customers with what they need. So these are co-pilots essentially, where someone in an organization uses AI to provide something for the end user, for the customer. And we're currently building healthcare models that provide health information. We know this is a great business sector. So what we do is we find that the specialized models we build, they provide a better performance. Instead of using a base model to provide the information one needs, we add the stuff the company wants to work with, and we instruct the model appropriately to work in the way that customer wants the model to work with. This increases, in obvious ways, it increases the domain knowledge, but it also increases the reliability of the model with respect to adjacent things, and it increases the robustness in face of noise, because we promote the stuff that is central for the customer's business deal. And what we find is that to do this well, we need to know exactly what we're doing. Customers are very pleased with what we build. The qualitative evaluation goes quite well. It's clear from usage statistics that the things do what they think. And intrinsic evaluation, mathematical models to show how well a system provides information on a certain topic, those show the same story. And we're building, hang on, let me go back to that. But we haven't completed the piece of strategy that we need to provide a comprehensive quality assessment. So this is something we're working on today. We're building base models right now. These models are developed together with Turku NLP, university partner, trained on Lumi Supercomputing Center in Finland. Most of you probably know about. These models will be trained on all languages. Focus currently is on English and Finnish, the home market, and on code. We're releasing these models as we go. And checkpoints, one is scheduled for, I think, this week, actually. So there will be a model out. The current model is trained on on 30 billion plus parameters. So it's the middle of this scale. We will continue doing this. This is a long-range plan we have. So this is the model we release. Is called Poro, and we will be we're tracking its evolution as we go. We're already at state-of-the-art performance on standard benchmarks, and a checkpoint release is scheduled I believe, this week. Now, the point here is this is one part of our strategy. We do believe that base models will be more or less commodified around the market. We believe that it's a good idea to make them available. We believe it's a good idea to develop them at least partially with public funding. We believe it's a good idea for many people to work on base models to build what they need. We don't believe it's a business strategy to keep a base models under wraps and to build stuff on it and not release the base model. So the base models we build will be released publicly. And while we're doing this, we want to know if we're doing the right thing. So what we do is we monitor the training. That was those line graphs you just now saw, tracking standard test sets from research partners. And this is an excellent way of knowing if the training is going as it should be. We also benchmark the things we build according to use case specific, task specific quality metrics. And we also build a validation model because in the end, the customer is not very interested in knowing about the quality of the generative AI component. They're interested in the quality of the overall system. And thus the evaluation needs to be slightly different. These are things we work on as we continuously. And we do know that the customers worry about a lot of things, and the correctness of the language produced by the model is just one of them. This is an ongoing effort to track exactly what we need to know about the quality of a model. Most of the benchmarks out there work on specifically language correctness and to some sense common sense reasoning and veracity, but we haven't yet set up publicly we as a field, not we as Silo, have not set up publicly a set of tests that would test all these things. And the one that I most feel is lacking, and this goes back to the previous panel's expressions of positive mindset and so forth, is that the main thing we're interested in AI is that it's creative, it's fun, it's interesting, and it's more than an FAQ. If you build a customer service bot, you're supposed to have an interesting dialogue, not only a helpful one. So how can we test if something is fun? Because we do believe it's fun, right? All of us in this room should believe as much. And I would expect us to need ways of thinking about how that goal notion is pursued with the models we're building. So quality assessment is the key to trustworthy systems. That's the third strategic hypothesis we're driving on. Open-based models, specialization is the key to value, and quality assessment is the key to trust. So the question is, how can we test a quality model that fits the needs of the arena it's employed in? Pretty much everyone uses a test called HelloSwag. For those of you who don't know, it's an excellent test of LLM quality. It takes bits of text and then asks the system which is the most plausible continuation of that test. And I was looking at it the other day, thinking to translate it into Swedish, which is an important language for some of us. And I found that, okay, just sampling out a few of the test items, the first three I sampled out using a random sampler are right there on the screen. They involve surf pools, poker, and cowboys. And fine, these are elements of popular culture, so they're not a bad test. Every Swede would be able to continue those sentences reasonably well, but they're not aligned with what we do in Europe. So I was thinking these tests need to be translated not by just translating the words and making sure the syntax of the test is correct, although actually you don't even need to do that. If you translate them really shoddily, the tests still work as a test of being able to complete stuff. The language models are astoundingly robust, and the test is actually a pretty good test. But we don't just want to test the completeness of the language model and its capacity to provide a continuation for a story. We want to make sure that it's instructed in ways that align with what our customers expect. And I don't know what your impressions of working with ChatGPT is, playing with it, but it doesn't sound Swedish even when it responds in Swedish, nor does it sound Finnish when it responds in Finnish. And pretty good Finnish, pretty good Swedish. And it's not the language that's the problem, it's the approach it's been instructed to pursue. It doesn't sound like a helpful Swede. It sounds like something else. So cultural aspects are part of translation, a part of translating the quality tests, but cultural aspects are also part of the instruction tuning. And this is something we need to think about as a community. So happily, we have launched a path to thinking about these things together. This is a several-year plan for a shared task. The first edition will go this year on testing the quality of generative language models. We have a number of tasks sketched out. We will detail them during the fall. If you wish to influence the way we think about these things, please sign up, make notes, or come up to me afterwards. This is something we will run for several years as part of a commission-funded project. And we look forward to having lively discussions about what target notions we should have for quality of generative language. So this is, I strongly recommend you talk to me about this. And so again, these are the things I would like for you to think about. Some of these might be contentious, but we believe that high quality based models should be made public because this is public good. We believe that to build value, they need to be customized and specialized to specific tasks. This is not a very contentious path, but some people actually do disagree. I'm happy to talk about this with those who do. We also believe that continuous quality assessment is important. and that this needs to be done in a sensitive and interesting way, and to focus on aspects such as fun. So we will be happy to talk about that as well. And we do know that the current generation of large language models, while wonderful, we do know that there are several generations ahead of us. So we do need to stay in touch with research sites to be able to plug in whatever comes next. We have our own hypothesis about those, and let's talk about those in technical sessions at research conferences. I have very strong opinions myself, some of which other people disagree with. So those are interesting things to talk about. So yes, those are the things we kick off with.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you very much. Maybe I'll sit here this time. Yeah. The question of assessment and assessment of quality and quality models is something that we will touch upon in the final session today. And I've taken note. So stick around, and I can bring you back on that topic later on. Right now, we're going to talk about the ecosystem, the startup ecosystem, and the investment. Can I call the other three panelists on stage, and while you're coming in, I'll introduce you. So we have Laurent Daudet over there, yeah, wherever, as long as I can sit here. You're the CEO of a company called Lighton. Next to you is Mary Maidrejova. Is that good or no? No? Well, sorry. Well, still, you're the co-founder and CTO of Robotwin from Prague. Welcome. And finally, Federico Mena, who is the Chief Executive Officer of EIT Digiton. Thank you all for joining us. What we'll do, since we've heard about Silo AI, maybe I'll start with you, Mary and Laurent. What if I give you 2 minutes to do an elevator pitch and just explain first what Robotwin is and then what Lighton is? Imagine that you have a room full of investors. Yeah. What do you want to tell them?
Okay. Thank you for the opportunity. I take it as like no pressure, but I'll do my best. Hello everyone. I'm from Robotwin. Robotwin is a startup that is focused on motion imitating robotics. So basically why we exist is that there is a strong need from the industry to get help with automation. Automation is not a new thing, it exists, but it's still not available and accessible for everyone. So when I talk about everyone, I also mean small manufacturing SMEs, small industries that do, for example, industrial spray painting or some of these technologies that are very automated. The reason why they are not automated is that making robots do what you need in the production is still a very difficult task. Hiring programmers to program robots takes time and money. And also there's very often a lack of the technological knowledge by these programmers who provide you the programs to your manufacturing place. So what we do as a response is we put the workers from these manufacturing places in the middle of the automation process, and we give them our robot teaching tools. So now I'm there, what our product actually is. We develop these robot teaching tools. And how the process of the robot teaching then works is that you as a worker can take our tool. You can simply demonstrate with the tool how you want the robot to move or manufacture for you. Our system, our robot teaching tool records the data and generates the robotic programs automatically. And this is the end of the process. So there is no coding needed, there is no programming needed. And we really believe that this way we can provide a useful tool to all manufacturers to be able to automate themselves easily. And also we kind of digitize the skills and the know-how that is hidden inside of these workers experienced with the process. And this helps to produce very efficient and optimized robot programs for the automation.
Can you give us just a couple of examples of practical applications, concrete applications?
For sure. So it all started by companies from the painting industry, as I mentioned before. They approached us because there is a big lack of workforce. They are really struggling to find people to do these jobs. It's demanding and very unhealthy job as well. So this is one first segment where we are active. But obviously this way of teaching robots can be extended to other segments as well. So there is, for example, grinding or surface treatments, then it can be quality control, but essentially it can be anything what you can imagine. So any robot manipulation you would like to teach the robot, you can do based on our tool. You can do it based on the motion tracking and the imitation that we give you as a powerful tool.
How old is the company?
2 years it will be. About 2 years, but it all started way earlier. Before it started as a university project, and then it evolved over the time up to the stage where we are now. We just launched the first product to the market a month ago, so now it's like taking the path.
And just to clarify, are you using generative AI at all?
We are not using generative AI right now. That's maybe also we will touch the topic later. So there is still a really big gap between what the state of the art is in the technology and what is applied in the industry. So if we would start with the generative AI, we would start at the other edge of the gap. And I think we would be very much struggling to deploy the technology to the industry. So we took it from the other end. We looked at the smallest diff we can make, the smallest step we can make, and actually already bring some some impact to the industry. That's where we start. We are building trust from there, and the other tools will come later. That's our strategy.
Very good. So we'll come on what you need to grow and what are the growth objectives just after we hear from Laurent about Lighton. 2 minutes.
Thank you. So I'm Laurent Daudet. I'm co-CEO and co-founder at Lighton. And there must be somewhere around my also co-founder Igor Caron, co-CEO. He will be speaking this afternoon. So Lighton is a spin-off from French University Research. I used to be a professor in physics, and in 2016 I switched to creating this startup because we were seeing that AI was changing dimension. Really, some big things were happening, and in 2020, when the GPT-3 craze started, we really refocused the company directly on that. And now we've been building, I think last time we counted 12 LLM amongst the best of the world in some topics. So that's what we do. We do models, but we also have this software platform that we call Paradigm that is a whole set of software tools to help the deployment, the fine-tuning, the user generation, the copilot for prompt, and so on, all those set of tools to help an enterprise and also the public sector develop their own use cases on generative AI. Typically, RAG system, retrieval augmented generation, like how to chat with a set of documents. This is the #1 use case that we are at the moment deploying, so that to minimize hallucination on all these type of very interesting topics as well. So that's mostly what we do.
Who are your customers?
Mostly large companies and public sectors as well.
Which sector?
That's interesting because it's in terms of industry. I would say generative AI could be applied to any industry. And like we are talking to, of course, the fact that we can install our systems on premises on their private clouds, it's really important for companies that have very high sensitivity to the privacy of the data. There's nothing goes on the API somewhere in Palo Alto where you don't know what happens with your data. So we are talking to the banking industry, to the bank insurance, medical domain, human resources, high tech, defense, and so on. So that's I would say the core markets that we have. But we are also talking to companies like luxury brands, which in France is a big topic, and we are helping them for their marketing purposes, for instance. So it's really cross sector.
Very good. And also the public sector, right?
Also public sector as well. Yes, very big topic for us.
So so when was Lighton created?
2016.
2016. So has it now entirely shift to generative AI?
Totally, yes.
Totally. Okay, that's very good.
We started as a hardware company actually, so a very different occupation, but now we are only doing Gen AI, LLM.
Okay. Then, yeah, very different beasts, very different companies we have on this panel. I think we need to go into the question of what do you need next, and so very different levels as well, right? So maybe I'll start with you, Jussi. Silo AI is pretty big, isn't it? How many people are there?
Silo itself is around 300 plus now.
So it's not even an SME anymore.
It's not an S, definitely not an S. I don't know what the line in the sand for the M is, but I mean, I don't have the number in my head because it changes.
That's okay.
It changes upwards.
So what's next for Silo AI?
I think I just told you, didn't I? We're building base models and sharing them out, and building specialized models to work with them.
Let me ask the question differently. Do you need further investment?
I would say that what we need more than investments is informed demand on the part of European players. And I think, well, you just mentioned as much. There's a lack of trust, there's a lack of reliance, and it's better not to do anything. And the customers we get are the informed customers, and they already know what they're doing, and often they need a little bit of help to formulate it in ways that are practical. But there are also, we're sometimes approached by organizations that are driven by fear of missing out rather than a real need. Their board of directors tell them, we need AI, we need one of those chatbots, and then we need to gently persuade them to think a little bit about how they need, where that need is. I mean, it's true, they do need stuff, maybe not what they thought they needed. But the first customers we get are the informed ones. They often have their own AI teams, and they need specifics to work with them.
All right, Laurent.
Yeah, I fully agree with you. We have exactly the same type of interaction with our customers. I think still there has been a change in the last few months. I mean, over six months ago, it was what you just said was the majority of our clients. But now I think we see more and more people who have a better view on what can be done with this type, what can be done and what cannot be done as well. So I think the maturity of the market has evolved quite fast, which is a good thing. I think in terms of what we need, yes, of course, we always need more funding, and I also see a lot of difference in maturity on these topics on both sides of the Atlantic. So I wish European investors would have like bigger funds. I think that the problem of an issue of size of the funds in this type of technologies compared to what we see on the other side of the Atlantic.
I would like to, to add the obvious thing that I think everyone in the room is clamoring for. We need more computing resources. That's one of the major bottlenecks, of course. But when I said more informed demand, I also meant that there's a huge public sector in the EU on all levels, municipal, regional, national, and union level, which is amenable to policy decisions. And I think if one were to help and guide the public sector into making the right sort of procurement processes, we'd have a pretty good audience for the things that are already being built by us and others in this room. So there's increasing the demand on that end would be a huge boost.
Do you think this is one of the differentiation factor between the Europe and the US, the role of the public sector? Do you think it's actually more important here?
It's certainly the perception I have as a European citizen and so forth, that the public sector is larger and maybe in some sense, more trusted than it is in other parts of the world. The relationship of the citizens to the public sector isn't obviously antagonistic, although I've just gone through a process that might, there are footnotes to that, but we all have discussions with bureaucracy at times, but I think that the role of the public sector is markedly different here than it is in other parts of the world. And that role could be a beneficial one to decrease the friction for the market in AI components.
Do you agree, actually? I'm bringing you in, then I'll come back to you, Maggie, on the question of investment, but it's just the role of the public sector is actually very interesting.
Yeah,
and the IT digital is bringing all these different parts together, right?
We do. I agree on the role of the public sector. And I mean, what you said is fully correct from what also we see at the IT Digital. At the same time, when we talk about generative AI, I think the private sector should also step up big time, because if you look what they did in the US, Microsoft and Elon Musk, so they invested so much money, and we don't have the same type of investments in Europe. And I think that's the part we are missing. But if we use the public sector in the right way, that definitely we have a competitive advantage with the rest of the world. So that's something we have also to help a bit, or to educate on our side at least.
All right, Maggie, and just to wrap up on the question of what do you need next. Robot Twin is smaller, right? You mentioned that you are 8 people?
7.
7?
7 internals, yeah.
Tell us just a little bit about the journey. You didn't benefit from EIT Digital, but you did benefit from EIT manufacturing, right?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So I just have to second to the things you mentioned, but in the same time, maybe I would add how my industry is maybe different and maybe a little bit more challenging. So I'm working in the manufacturing industry, which is a very conservative place still, and focused on SMEs. So there are not many well-informed customers, and certainly there are not really companies who would be feeling that they are missing out and they need to employ AI just because they need. So it's a lot about us like making them believe, okay, this is the right way for you to go, and it will certainly solve your problems. It's not that we would be explaining them what their problems are. They are very much aware of what their problems are. They just cannot really imagine that some solution based on AI or other things could be the solution for them. So, and also one more thing to add, what we would need. Manufacturing is not such a hot topic as language models. So it might be difficult to find experts to join you on the journey when you are trying to bring innovation into manufacturing. So maybe I would add also this, that the general perception of the topic of manufacturing and industry is maybe not that super positive or not that super attractive. And like doing something on the positive story in this sense would also help us to like attract more talents, for example, to join our team. So it's not only about the money always.
But well, now at this stage, are you also seeking more private investment, or are you good just ongoing on the EIT manufacturing grant?
Now is the right time to mention the EIT manufacturing and how it contributed to our stories. So I said it at the beginning, our project started at the university, and in the academia ecosystem, we were lucky to join EIT manufacturing. EIT manufacturing is the one who redistributes European funds, and they were actually supporting us from the very like ideatic phase of our project. And thanks to them, we were able to invest money for 1 year into the technical development. And thanks to them, we actually were able to launch the product to the market. So it's hard to imagine or hard to believe, but we were able to get that far only by bootstrapping, which is awesome. And at this moment, I have to say it's really great that the European funds look at these like unrepresented areas, and also they understand, okay, hardware startups may need some more money at the beginning to start with, and they react to the need. So that's really great. Like we were lucky in the unlucky position we are.
Very good. I will again take questions from the audience. All right. So I'll come to you if you want to prepare what to think. to have a couple of questions. I will also take questions if there are some from the online audience. I saw there was one before. It's related to trust and public trust, so I'll direct that to the final panel, but I have seen it. All right, EIT Digital. We've heard about EIT manufacturing, but we have EIT Digital on the panel. How do you, from on the grant allocation and supporting startups, how do you operate?
Yeah, so we operate slightly different from EIT manufacturing because we belong to the same family, but we belong to different generations. So manufacturing is much younger than us. So EIT Digital just turned a few weeks ago 13, and we have the forum a more mature structure, but less funds to invest from the European Commission. At the same time, over the years, we built our own investment capacity, and we are now devoting this investment capacity to do what we say: from students, we create unicorns. So we have developed a set of services that are going from the university masters, where we help students to combine the technical knowledge with what they need to create a new company and make it successful, or to join an existing company and make it grow by means of innovation. And from there, we have pre-seed, seed, seed plus, and Series A programs. And each of these programs, we intervene in a different way. For example, in the upper part, in the Series A, we act as a broker between the companies and investors. So we have a network of 1,000 investors, and we simply connect them, help the company prepare their pitch and the business plans, and that's it. While in the pre-seed, seed, and seed plus, we invest directly, and we help the companies connect into corporate for testing their products or MVPs through POCs or other collaborations with corporates. But there we invest directly, we become shareholders of the company, and over the years we built approximately 500 companies, and half of them are part of our equity portfolio where we are shareholders. And they cover more or less the whole curve that I described. So some are very early stage. Just yesterday we signed 40 new companies that were created by young students. And some of them created in the early days are much upper in the curve.
And what's the status? What's the state of affairs of if you have such a network of investors? Do you see more and more attention given to generative AI?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, of course, you see every time there is a new technology or a new hype, you see the focus is moving there. But I believe that with generative AI, is not about the hype; it's really about the technology. This is there to stay, and definitely there's a tremendous interest in the technology and in the potential that this can bring. Still, we are lagging behind compared to the rest of the world, and that's where we have to catch up as Europeans.
All right. Should I just ask if there are any questions? And I can't really see, so I don't see any hands, right? Do you see one? Oh, sorry, I've got the lights right here, so I've got some black spots.
Hi, thank you. Besides your requests to investors and policymakers, I was wondering whether you have any requests for educators, for the people who are training the people you will incorporate to your teams, but also for the people who are educating the general public. So I would really like to hear what you have to say about that.
Great question. Who wants to answer?
I can answer from my perspective, so not on the perspective of the company, but on the perspective of an ecosystem that brings together players in innovation and in education. And yeah, education is fundamental. So without education, we cannot have really development or innovation. And I agree with you. On the one hand, we have to train the future leaders. So the students at the master level that need to combine technical knowledge with innovation and entrepreneurship. But it's also good that the general the regular citizen gets to know a basic level of knowledge on technologies, because that's extremely relevant, that everyone at least understands what we are talking about. And then there's the whole discussion about upskilling and reskilling. Often you hear people saying that with technology you will are killing jobs. And this is something that came already from the past, but you never heard anyone saying that the jobs were missing. Actually, all the entrepreneurs are saying that they don't find qualified staff. So the key, in my view, is to make sure that we continuously invest in upskilling and reskilling our workers to make sure that they are not left behind. But I think education and skills, it's a tremendous area, and it's an opportunity in Europe, I think, because we have the best academies, the best research, the best universities. So definitely it's an important element on my side.
Yeah, I can give my perspective in terms of entrepreneur. Yeah, it's true that we need to have more skilled workers in this, especially in generative AI. I mean, it's very hard to find talent. It's very competitive, and what we do mostly is to hire good engineers. And they are mostly software engineers more than AI researchers. I mean, really, software engineering is the key, I think, in this area. And then we train them in this generative AI internally, because you cannot expect to find engineers with 5 years of experience in generative AI. It just doesn't exist. And yes, we need more of them, more good software engineers. And I'd like also to comment on the thing that we have to create a narrative for the general public as well, enlighten the people about the possibility of this new type of AI. And well, I've brought a bit of self-promotion, if I can. I just did a graphic novel on generative AI. It's called Dream Machine. It was just released in French a month ago, and it will be released in other languages next year as well. So this is just to explain everything about generative AI, large language model, to the general audience.
Fantastic. Thank you. Is it the only one you brought in today?
Yeah, I've only brought one, but it's available on Amazon or anywhere.
Okay. Very good. We have another question, which we'll take.
Yeah, thank you. I guess this one is primarily for Jussi. I really enjoyed your focus on, the specialization of base models and the multicultural aspect of this, so couldn't agree more. I'm curious, wouldn't you think also in terms of, talent creation and broad availability of crucial talent, and of course in 3 years we will have people who will have 5 years of experience or so with generative AI, wouldn't you think it would be better for us in Europe to just have the creation of powerful base models, trustworthy multicultural base models, fully in the public domain, and then let industry really specialize on the specialization and rolling out and productization of these models? Or do you indeed think it's crucial that industry, in a proprietary or open way, does the base models in Europe as well, just like they do in the United States? And if the latter, do you really think we can compete within the next 5 years or so with what OpenAI, Google, and others are doing in base models, only base models?
I don't think Silo has an official opinion on this, but I personally think that base models should be publicly funded and publicly available. And this is the case. The models we are building are at least partially publicly funded, and they will be made publicly available. And this is not just because we think it's a good idea to have a base to stand on to build. I mean, that's our business idea, doing the specialization. But it's also the case that these models encode general public knowledge. So there's a persuasive ideological argument why this should be the case. But I also believe that business interests are crucial in building good and useful base models, because if you just build them as an artifact and set them on a table and watch them beep, they might not turn out to be the useful things we need for building tooling later on. Because after all, these are tools we're building. They're not just, well, they're not simulations. They're not intended to have value in themselves, except as a fantastic, wonderful thing. And this is certainly something some of us have worked on for decades. Now they're there, but they're also tools. We need to be able to use them. We need to motivate the huge investment into using them. So I think a business interest in building them is crucial, not least to make sure that they're built efficiently, because the current generation of models, and this is again a personal view, are hugely wasteful in terms of data and computing resources. And I do believe that the coming generations will be much better built with better engineering and with a larger degree of a neurophysiological realism and so forth. And I'm prepared to talk at this at length over coffee or wine. But the point there is that if we have a business interest in building them, there will be a push towards efficiency, which we really do need.
Okay. Our session is also focusing on ecosystem. Do you feel like you're part of an ecosystem, whether local, European, local, national, European, or are you, I mean, probably the fact that you're here today is already part of an answer, right? Of the answer. But yeah, do you feel like you belong to an ecosystem? Maybe it's time consuming and you don't want that anymore, but does it help?
You asking me? I do believe there is the embryo of an ecosystem in place. And I think gatherings such as these are probably good for creating networks and face-to-face contacts and raising the level of trust between actors. And what I said about increasing informed demand is part of, decreasing the friction that's needed to create a good ecosystem. And I think good policy goals, if I'm now speaking to the public policymakers that I hope are plentiful in this room, would be that if the target notion is to create an ecosystem, which I think is a dandy idea, then it should be motivated to decrease the friction of providing stuff and making stuff and moving stuff from one actor to another in that ecosystem. So any action that decreases the friction, lowers thresholds of entry and makes business deals simpler, those are valuable. And we don't need to increase demand per se. We need to increase the efficiency of what we have out there. That's what an ecosystem needs to do.
Do you second that, Laurent?
Yes, absolutely. And I would also add to policymakers that they have to think of the timescales that have to, the timescales in this domain, generative AI, they're completely different from what we've seen in the past. So if you want to do things fast. Don't wait 5 years. Don't do 5-year plans, because if you look 5 years back in AI, who would have thought that people in Hollywood would be doing a strike because they were being threatened by AI? People would have said you're completely crazy to think that. And so there's no point in making plans for 5 years. Do things for the next one year, 2 years maximum.
Do you feel like there is a French ecosystem?
Yeah, it's getting there, yes.
A European?
Getting there as well.
Maybe you're more locally rooted, right? Well, not really, actually, because you have with the IT manufacturing, you must have opened doors as well.
Yeah, exactly. I would say we went the other way around, like first from the European level and then getting to know our national things later on. But I must say, we are a very young company and we are indeed a baby of the ecosystem. So without the ecosystem, we wouldn't be here. We certainly would not. We would not start, we would not survive, we would not develop the product, we would not launch it to the market. But indeed, it's not that big yet, because you can also see it as we've been invited to contribute to the ecosystem back by sharing our thoughts, sharing our ideas, maybe things for improvement and feedback. And it's actually quite surprising, right? Because we are one of the many companies, I would say, but probably not. So that's the ecosystem is there, but it's still growing. And when you ask on the European and national comparison, then for me from Czech Republic, the ecosystem is super small. It's still super small. It's super surprising. But when I present our startup somewhere, no one really understands much what we are doing, because we are the only robotics focused one in the room. Compared to, I don't know, you go to Denmark and there is everyone doing robotics, right? So, well, yeah, there is, I think there is still a lot of potential to increase the power of the ecosystem, and we are trying to do it.
Federico, you must have it. Well, actually, a similar point of view on the value of the ecosystem is EIT Digital. an ecosystem per se?
Yeah, indeed. I was seconding every word that was being said. Yeah, well, we are an ecosystem. Of course, we are not only working on generative AI, we cover the broader digital arena, but yes, we are an ecosystem. We bring together 350 organizations ranging from small startups to large corporates, including university research centers and so forth. And what we do is really facilitating pan-European collaboration. So in most of the programs that I described before across the curve from student to unicorn, almost all of them foresee pan-European collaboration. So for example, our students are by design spending the first year in one country and the second year of their master in a second country, and they get a double degree. Our startups have to apply for our investment, have to present a business case or a POC to be done with a corporate in a different country. So, and we feel that it's important to bring this like a glue across all the different smaller local and national ecosystem. And we have strong, I think, ecosystems in Europe. Maybe on generative AI, we are getting there, as it was said before. But if you look at other technologies, we do have those. And I think it's also important that we broaden them and we scale them up at European level.
There's another topic that came up before. It's the access to the compute, right? To all the computing resources. Do you feel like an ecosystem can be a real game changer in helping companies access supercomputers and other resources?
Well, since I have the mic open, I think it's a crucial part, and especially in generative AI, the computing power is everything. So I think a good ecosystem should also provide that service.
Yeah, I completely second that. And at Lighton, we were lucky to have access to one of the French supercomputers, Jean-Frédéric, very early on, so that it could give us the first our first steps into generative AI was thanks to your HPC and this type of supercomputers that are available to do research, and that's great. And we should have bigger ones. I mean, it's really important, but also it's important that we change the way you can access these computers as well. It's not like running a job on distributed AI is not at all the same thing as running a job in traditional HPC as well. So there's a whole change of culture that has to come into this world of supercomputers as well. It's not just have the right GPUs, it's also have the right software engineer, it have the right type of access you have. I mean, we've run jobs for several months on more than 3,000 GPUs. I mean, this is insane size of training jobs, and you need to have not only the capabilities, but also that it's possible to run these jobs in terms of access to that. So there is also a change of culture in the supercomputers.
And I think that tooling, that craftsmanship is part of what could build an ecosystem, because those are not business critical. Those are things that could be shared among participants. Mm-hmm. So that's one way of creating an ecosystem, helping each other run these jobs. The content of the jobs might be proprietary and business critical, but the capacity to run them is not. Well, there will be players who want to keep it for themselves, but this might be a way of creating an ecosystem around the actual gathering around the computing.
Well, that's a very concrete recommendation. I have one last question to the three of you. Federico, you're too European to answer. But in fact, your three companies are deeply rooted in Europe, right? So if tomorrow an investor comes from the US, are you ready to leave Europe?
Let's leave Europe, I don't think is on the map. I would, and I'm not making business decisions, let's put it that way, but leaving Europe is not on the map.
I would say that, yeah, what I tell to investors is that there's a huge market here in Europe, and that's for us. I mean, the market is amazing here, so it makes sense to stay here in Europe. But then at the end, I mean, I'm just a business person, and I never say no to a big check if it's big enough.
Okay. I have a completely different view on that, because I'm not the CEO, but the CTO of our company. So I don't really take the business things that close to me, but like why I do what I do is because I'm on the way to rethink the industry into Europe and to help the industry into Europe. So for me, there would be no sense in leaving Europe, because why we all started that was, okay, there is innovation that can help in the industry, in the manufacturing industry, and can actually make it again competitive towards like manufacturing in Asia and so on. So for me, it's like totally no-go. Like we are here to develop the product for the European market, to help it. And I think that it's also part of paying back to the European ecosystem that actually helped us at the beginning to develop the product. So for Robotwin, I have to say, we are staying because there is the right room for us.
Maybe something tells me that you're going to be invited to more conferences. We've reached the time for the end of this discussion, and I promised you that we would finish on time. So please, big round of applause for the four speakers. Practical information. Can you? Thank you. Practical information. There is a group picture that is going to take place in the hall for everyone. Okay, there is food available. You won't get any food until the picture is taken. All right, 2:15 we resume with parallel session, and then we come back here at 4. Bon appétit. Thank you so much.